The sun was just beginning to set over Oakland, California, casting long shadows across Uncle Rick's auto shop, where a young teen was finishing up his work for the day. The smell of motor oil and the familiar sound of tools clattering against concrete filled the air as he wiped his grease-stained hands on an old red rag. At just 16 years old, Alex had already become known as the neighborhood's go-to person for car troubles. Every weekend, you'd find him at his uncle's shop, learning everything he could about engines, transmissions, and the intricate dance of moving parts that made vehicles come alive. It wasn't just a hobby for him. It was his escape, his passion, and hopefully his future. "Hey kiddo, you did good work today," his uncle called out from under a lifted Honda Civic. "That transmission you helped me with. Customer's gonna be real happy." Alex smiled, pride warming his chest. He'd stayed extra late today to help with that transmission, even though his mom had texted twice about dinner getting cold. But that's just who he was. Once he started something, he had to see it through. Life wasn't exactly easy for Alex and his mom. She worked 2 jobs, waitressing during the day and cleaning offices at night, just to keep their small apartment and put food on the table. College seemed like a distant dream, something that happened to other kids whose parents had savings accounts and college funds. But that didn't stop Alex from dreaming big. Every night, after finishing his homework, he'd spend hours on YouTube, watching engineering videos and taking notes in his worn spiral notebook. His mom would sometimes peek into his room at midnight, finding him fast asleep with his phone, still playing videos about mechanical engineering or electric cars. She'd quietly turn off his phone, pull his blanket up, and kiss his forehead, her heart both proud and heavy with the weight of dreams she wasn't sure how to help come true. That Saturday had started like any other. Alex had gotten up early, grabbed a quick breakfast of toast and orange juice, and headed to his uncle's shop. He'd spent the morning learning how to diagnose electrical problems in a 2019 Ford F-150, and the afternoon helping with oil changes and tire rotations. It was honest work, and every car that left the shop running better than when it came in gave him a sense of accomplishment. As the day wound down, Alex gathered his things, said goodbye to his uncle, and started his walk home. The crisp evening air carried the scent of someone grilling nearby, and his stomach rumbled, reminding him of the dinner his mom had promised, her famous enchiladas, a recipe passed down from his grandmother. Little did Alex know that his ordinary Saturday was about to become anything but ordinary. As he turned onto Marshall Street, adjusting his backpack full of tools he borrowed from his uncle, fate was about to throw him an unexpected curveball, one that would change the course of his life forever. He pulled his worn jean jacket tighter around himself as a light drizzle began to fall, dotting the sidewalk with dark spots. The street lights were just starting to flicker on, casting pools of yellow light on the wet pavement. In the distance, thunder rumbled softly, promising more rain to come. But Alex didn't mind the weather. His mind was already racing with ideas about the engine diagnostic system he'd been reading about during his lunch break. That's when he saw it. A sleek, expensive car pulled over on the side of the road, its hazard lights blinking steadily in the growing darkness. And beside it stood a figure that would connect him to a world he only dreamed about through his phone screen late at night. The Tesla Model S looked out of place in this neighborhood, its sleek silver body gleaming even in the dim evening light. Alex could count on one hand the number of times he'd seen a car this expensive up close. Standing next to it was an older man in a well-tailored suit, looking frustrated as he stared at the flat tire on the driver's side. For a moment, Alex hesitated. His mom's voice echoed in his head, warning him about approaching strangers, especially after dark. But then he remembered something else she always said. Sometimes the right thing isn't the easy thing. Besides, he couldn't just walk past someone who needed help. That wasn't how he was raised. "Excuse me, sir," Alex called out, keeping a respectful distance. "I noticed you've got a flat. I work at the auto shop down the street. Well, my uncle's shop. I could help if you'd like." The man turned, surprise flickering across his weathered face. He had gray hair and tired eyes, but there was something dignified about the way he carried himself. "You know about cars?" he asked, his accent catching Alex off guard. It wasn't American, maybe South African. "Yes, sir. I spend every weekend at the shop," Alex replied, already setting his backpack down and pulling out his tools. "These Teslas have specific jacking points. I watched a video about it last week, actually." The man's eyebrows rose slightly. "You study Teslas?" Alex nodded, kneeling to position the jack properly. "I study everything about cars, sir, but especially electric vehicles. They're the future, right?" He smiled, then added, "Though I've mostly worked on them through YouTube videos. We don't get many Teslas in my uncle's shop." The rain was picking up now, but Alex barely noticed. He worked efficiently, his hands moving with practiced ease despite the water running down his face. The man held an umbrella over them both, watching intently as Alex explained each step of what he was doing. "You're quite knowledgeable for someone so young," the man commented, genuine interest in his voice. "What got you interested in electric vehicles?" As Alex carefully removed the flat tire, he found himself opening up about his dreams. He told the man about the hours he spent studying engineering concepts, about the small electric motor he built from scratch using parts from the junkyard, about his hope of someday designing cars that would help combat climate change. "My mom always says dreams don't have price tags," Alex said, tightening the last lug nut on the spare tire. "Even if college seems, well, complicated right now, I'm going to find a way." The man was quiet for a moment, something unreadable crossing his face. "You know," he said finally, "you remind me of someone. My son was always taking things apart, building new things." He had that same look in his eyes when he talked about the future. Alex stood up, wiping his hands on his now soaked jeans. "All done, sir. The spare's on properly, but you'll want to get a new tire soon. These performance vehicles, they need specific types." "Thank you," the man said, reaching for his wallet. "Please, let me compensate you for your time and expertise." But Alex shook his head. "No need, sir. I'm just glad I could help. My mom always says what goes around comes around, you know." The man stared at him for a long moment, then pulled out a business card instead of money. "My name is Errol," he said, holding out the card. "And I think my son would very much like to meet you." Alex took the card, his eyes widening as he read the name. The rain suddenly felt very cold on his skin as he realized exactly whose car he just fixed. The business card felt heavy in Alex's pocket as he worked on a beaten-up Chevrolet the next morning. He hadn't told anyone about last night's encounter, not even his mom. It felt too unreal, like one of those dreams that fade away as soon as you try to explain them to someone else. "You're quieter than usual today," Uncle Rick noticed, rolling out from under a car. "Everything okay, kid?" Alex nodded, but his mind was somewhere else. He kept thinking about the conversation with Errol, about how the older man's eyes had lit up when Alex explained his self-taught knowledge of electric vehicles. The way Errol had listened, really listened. To him, talk about his dreams was different from the polite nods he usually got from adults. Around lunchtime, his phone buzzed. An unknown number. Alex's hands trembled slightly as he answered. "Hello, is this Alex?" The familiar accented voice came through. "This is Errol from last night. I hope you don't mind, but I shared our encounter with my son. He's quite interested in your story." Alex sat down on a nearby workbench, his legs suddenly feeling weak. "Your son, you mean?" "Yes," Errol chuckled. "He's particularly impressed that you taught yourself Tesla's mechanical systems through YouTube. He'd like to meet you, perhaps show you around one of the facilities. Would that interest you?" Would that interest him? Alex had to bite his tongue to keep from shouting yes into the phone. Instead, he managed a somewhat composed, "That would be amazing, sir. But," he glanced around the shop, "I help my uncle on weekends, and my mom. Of course, Errol said warmly. Family comes first. Why don't we arrange something with your mother? Perhaps dinner this evening? I'd like her to be part of this conversation. That evening, Alex sat with his mom in their small living room, both dressed in their Sunday best, waiting for the doorbell to ring. He'd finally told her everything on her lunch break, and she'd rushed home early from her waitressing job to prepare for the meeting. Remember, she said, straightening his collar for the 10th time, no matter what happens, I'm already so proud of you, my Hijo. The doorbell rang at exactly 6 o'clock. When Alex opened the door, there stood Errol, holding a box of pastries from the fancy bakery downtown that Alex and his mom always walked past but never entered. Over his mom's homemade enchiladas, she'd insisted on cooking despite Errol's offer to take them to a restaurant. They talked about Alex's passion for engineering, about his mom's sacrifices to support his dreams, about Uncle Rick's mentorship at the shop. Errol shared stories about his own son's early days tinkering with computers, about the importance of nurturing young talent. You know, Errol said, accepting a second helping of enchiladas, my son didn't have it easy at first either. But he had opportunities, and he made the most of them. Sometimes, that's all a bright young mind needs, an opportunity. Alex's mom wiped a tear from her eye as Errol explained his idea. A summer internship at Tesla's engineering department. A chance to learn from some of the best minds in the industry. And if Alex proved himself, which Errol had no doubt he would, there could be more, much more. But why? Alex couldn't help asking. Why do all this for me? Errol set down his fork and looked Alex straight in the eye. Because last night, when you helped a stranger in the rain, you didn't know who I was. You didn't want payment. You just wanted to help, and you showed genuine passion for the work. That kind of character, combined with your talent and determination. He smiled. Well, let's just say I've seen that combination before, and I know where it can lead. The next few days passed in a blur. Alex still went to school, still helped at Uncle Rick's shop, but everything felt different somehow. His regular life continued, but there was this amazing secret bubbling just beneath the surface. 1 week after the dinner, Alex sat in his high school guidance counselor's office during lunch break. The counselor, Mr. Chen, was staring at his computer screen with his mouth slightly open. I just got the most unusual email, Mr. Chen said slowly, adjusting his glasses. It's about you, Alex. From Tesla's educational outreach program. He looked up, his eyes wide. Care to explain how this happened? Alex took a deep breath and told the story. About the flat tire, about Errol, about the dinner. As he spoke, Mr. Chen's expression changed from skepticism to amazement. You know, Mr. Chen leaned back in his chair. In 20 years of counseling, I've never seen anything quite like this. But if anyone deserves an opportunity like this, it's you. He started typing rapidly. I'll help get all your paperwork in order. We'll need to arrange your schedule for the summer program. After school, Alex rushed to Uncle Rick's shop. He found his uncle elbow deep in an engine, as usual. Uncle Rick? Alex called out. I need to tell you something. His uncle looked up, wiping his hands on his work shirt. What's up, kid? You're looking serious. Remember that Tesla with the flat tire last week? Alex started. As he explained everything, his uncle's expression went from confused to proud to slightly sad. So, I might not be able to help at the shop as much this summer, Alex finished, looking at his feet. I'm sorry. Uncle Rick was quiet for a moment, then walked over and pulled Alex into a tight hug, getting grease all over Alex's school clothes. Sorry? Kid, this is what I've been preparing you for. Though I didn't expect it to happen quite like this, he laughed. Just promise you won't forget about your old uncle when you're designing fancy electric cars. That evening, Alex got another call. This time, it wasn't Errol. It was someone from Tesla's HR department. They needed to set up a video call to discuss the details of the internship. Alex's mom took the afternoon off from both jobs to be there for the call. They sat together at their small kitchen table, Alex's laptop open in front of them. When the call connected, they weren't just talking to an HR representative. There were several people on the call, including the head of the internship program and 2 senior engineers. "We've heard great things about you, Alex," one of the engineers said. "Errol shared your story with us, but more importantly, he shared your knowledge. Not many 16-year-olds understand the intricacies of our regenerative braking systems." Alex's mom squeezed his hand under the table as they explained what the internship would involve. It wasn't just making coffee or filing papers. They wanted him to work directly with the engineering team, learning and contributing to real projects. "And there's one more thing," the HR representative said, smiling. "We've been in touch with the California Institute of Technology. They have a special program for promising young engineers. If you complete the internship successfully, there might be a scholarship in your future." Alex felt his mom's hand tighten around his. He knew she was trying not to cry, happy tears this time. "We believe in investing in the future," one of the engineers added. "And sometimes the future shows up on a rainy night to help with a flat tire." After the call ended, Alex and his mom just sat there for a moment, letting it all sink in. Then she pulled him into a hug, whispering, "Your dad would be so proud of you right now, my amor. So proud." For the first time, Alex let himself really believe it. His dreams weren't just dreams anymore. They were becoming real, one step at a time. The Tesla facility was nothing like Uncle Rick's shop. As Alex walked through the gleaming halls on his first day, he felt like he'd stepped into the future. Everything was spotless, high-tech, and somehow both exciting and intimidating at the same time. "First day jitters?" asked Lisa, his mentor and a senior engineer. She had kind eyes and a warm smile that reminded him of his mom. "Don't worry, everyone feels that way at first. Even I did, and I've been here 8 years." Alex nodded, clutching his new employee badge. He'd polished his work boots that morning until he could see his reflection in them, and his mom had ironed his new Tesla polo shirt 3 times. She'd also packed him lunch in his dad's old lunchbox, for good luck, she'd said. "So," Lisa said, leading him through a maze of corridors, "Errol told us you're particularly interested in our battery management systems. Want to see something cool?" She led him into a massive room filled with prototype batteries and testing equipment. Alex's eyes went wide. This was like his YouTube videos coming to life, but 100 times better. "Today," Lisa announced, "we're running efficiency tests on a new battery design. Want to help?" For the next few hours, Alex worked alongside Lisa and her team, running tests and recording data. He understood more than they expected. All those late nights watching engineering videos were paying off. When he spotted a small inconsistency in one of the test results, Lisa looked impressed. "Good catch," she said. "That's exactly the kind of attention to detail we need here." During lunch break, Alex sat in the company cafeteria, still hardly believing where he was. He took a picture of his employee badge and sent it to Uncle Rick, who responded with about 20 excited emojis. Very unusual for his usually serious uncle. As he was eating the sandwich his mom had packed, someone sat down across from him. It was one of the senior engineers he'd seen in the video call. "How's your first day going?" the engineer asked, genuinely interested. "It's amazing," Alex replied honestly. "I mean, I've read about all this stuff, watched videos about it, but seeing it in person, actually working with it." He shook his head, still amazed. "You know," the engineer said, "we have a lot of interns come through here. Most of them have fancy degrees or connections. But what we really look for is passion, that spark in someone's eyes when they see a problem they want to solve. You've got that spark." After lunch, Lisa showed him something even more exciting: the prototype lab. Here, new ideas were being tested, new designs taking shape. It was like looking into the future of transportation. See that engine design over there? Lisa pointed to a complex piece of machinery. That's something we've been working on for months. Tomorrow, you'll help us run some tests on it. At the end of the day, Alex waited outside for his mom to pick him up. She'd insisted on driving him home on his first day, even though it meant rearranging her work schedule. As he waited, he looked back at the building, its windows glowing in the setting sun. A text message buzzed on his phone. It was from Errol. "How was your first day?" Alex smiled as he typed his reply. "Better than I ever imagined. Thank you for believing in me." When his mom pulled up, she could tell from his face that everything had gone well. "Good day, my Hijo?" she asked, even though she already knew the answer. "The best," Alex replied, then started telling her about everything he'd seen and learned. As they drove home, he couldn't stop talking about the batteries, the prototypes, the tests he'd helped with. His mom just listened, smiling, occasionally wiping away happy tears when she thought he wasn't looking. That night, as Alex lay in bed, he couldn't sleep. His mind was racing with everything he'd learned, everything he still wanted to learn. Tomorrow couldn't come fast enough. 3 months into his internship, Alex stood nervously in front of a room full of Tesla engineers. His hands were slightly shaky as he pulled up his presentation slides. He practiced this moment 100 times in front of his bathroom mirror, but this was different. This was real. "Go ahead, Alex," Lisa encouraged from the front row. "Just like we practiced." Taking a deep breath, Alex began explaining his idea. A modification to the current battery cooling system that could potentially improve efficiency by 3.2%. He'd noticed the possibility during one of his late-night study sessions, when he was comparing test data from different prototypes. The room was dead silent as he walked through his calculations. These were some of the best engineers in the world, and here he was, a 16-year-old intern, suggesting changes to their design. But as he spoke, he forgot to be nervous. This was what he loved. This was what he knew. When he finished, there was a moment of silence. Then the questions started coming. Not dismissive questions, but genuine ones, probing deeper into his ideas. The engineers were taking him seriously. The head of engineering paused, looking at Alex's diagrams. "This could actually work. We'll need to run some simulations, of course, but the math checks out. Well done, Alex. Very well done." After the presentation, Lisa pulled him aside. "You know what this means, right? If your idea works, and I think it will, you'll have made a real contribution to our next generation of vehicles. Not bad for a summer intern. Huh." That evening, Alex had another surprise waiting. The head of the internship program called him into her office. "We've been watching your progress closely," she said, gesturing for him to sit down. "Your work here has been exceptional. But what's really impressed us is how you've helped the other interns." It was true. Alex had started an informal study group, sharing his YouTube learning techniques with the college interns who were struggling with some concepts. He remembered how it felt to learn alone and wanted to help others. "The California Institute of Technology called today," she continued. "They're very interested in having you join their engineering program after you graduate high school." "And Tesla?" She smiled. "Well, let's just say we'd love to have you back next summer. And the summer after that. And maybe permanently after you graduate college." Alex felt his heart skip a beat. Really? Really? In fact, she reached into her desk drawer. "Someone wants to meet you tomorrow. Someone who's been following your progress with great interest." She handed him a letter. Alex's hands trembled as he opened it. Inside was an invitation to meet with Elon Musk himself. That night, Alex couldn't sleep again, but for different reasons than his first day. He thought about that rainy evening when he'd stopped to help with a flat tire. How different would his life be if he just walked past? If he'd been too afraid to offer help? He called Uncle Rick, who answered despite the late hour. Uncle Rick, remember when you taught me how to change a tire? His uncle chuckled. Of course. You were what? 12? Kept asking why every little step mattered. Thank you, Alex said softly, for everything. For teaching me, for letting me hang around the shop, for... Hey now. Uncle Rick's voice was gruff with emotion. Don't go getting all sappy on me. Just promise you'll still come by the shop sometimes. Your old uncle might need help keeping up with all this new electric car stuff. Alex smiled, wiping his eyes. Promise. He had one more call to make, to his mom, who was working her night shift. When he told her about meeting Elon Musk tomorrow, she started crying happy tears right there at work. Your father always said you were meant for great things, she whispered. He knew it from the day you were born. As Alex finally drifted off to sleep, he thought about all the people who had helped him get here. His mom, Uncle Rick, Errol, Lisa. Tomorrow would be another big day, but he wasn't nervous anymore. He was ready. 2 years later, Alex stood at a podium of his high school graduation ceremony. The auditorium was packed, but he could easily spot his mom in the front row, sitting between Uncle Rick and Lisa from Tesla. Even Errol had flown in for the occasion. They all wore proud smiles, and his mom was already dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. Looking out at the crowd, Alex adjusted the valedictorian sash across his chest and began to speak. You know, 2 years ago, I thought I knew exactly what my future looked like, he started. I was the kid who fixed cars at his uncle's shop, who stayed up late watching engineering videos, who dreamed about college but wasn't sure how to get there. Then one rainy night, I saw someone who needed help with a flat tire. As he told his story, Alex could see his words touching people in the audience. Parents were nodding, students were sitting up straighter, and somewhere in the middle of the crowd, his old guidance counselor, Mr. Chen, was beaming. But this isn't just my story, Alex continued. It's a story about my mom, who worked 2 jobs and never once complained. About my Uncle Rick, who taught me that there's no substitute for hard work. About every teacher who stayed late to answer my questions. Every friend who believed in me, and yes, about a chance encounter that changed everything. He paused, looking at Errol, who nodded encouragingly. That summer internship at Tesla didn't just teach me about engineering. It taught me that sometimes opportunities come disguised as challenges. That every act of kindness, no matter how small, can change lives in ways we never expect. Alex smiled as he remembered his first meeting with Elon Musk, how they'd ended up talking for hours about the future of sustainable energy, and how the conversation had led to something even bigger than his own opportunity. Today, I'm proud to announce that Tesla is launching a new scholarship program for young people interested in engineering. It's called the Helping Hands Scholarship, because sometimes all we need is a helping hand to reach our dreams. Starting next year, 10 students from backgrounds like mine will get the same chance I got. The applause was thunderous. In the front row, his mom was openly crying now, and Uncle Rick was trying to pretend he wasn't wiping away tears too. As I head to Caltech this fall, Alex continued once the applause died down, I carry with me every lesson I've learned. Not just about engineering, but about life, about how to treat others, about the importance of giving back. He looked at his classmates. Some of you might think your dreams are too big, that the obstacles are too high. I'm here to tell you they're not. 2 years ago, I was just a kid helping a stranger with a flat tire. Today, I'm helping design the future of transportation. Tomorrow? Well, that's up to each of us. After the ceremony, as family and friends gathered for photos, Alex felt a tug on his graduation gown. It was a freshman from the auto shop class he'd been mentoring. Hey Alex, the young student said shyly. Do you really think? Could I maybe apply for that scholarship next year? Alex smiled, remembering how he'd felt that rainy night, not knowing his life was about to change. Of course you can. And you know what? I'll help you with the application myself. Later that evening, at the small graduation party his mom had organized in their backyard, Alex looked around at all the people who had helped him get here. His mom was chatting with Lisa about his upcoming freshman year at Caltech. Uncle Rick was showing Errol pictures of Alex's early days at the shop. His friends from the Tesla internship were talking excitedly about their plans for college. As the sun set over their small Oakland neighborhood, Alex realized something important. Success wasn't just about reaching your dreams, it was about helping others reach theirs too. And this wasn't the end of his story. In many ways, it was just the beginning.